when I was up in Boston in high school, and then I was in college, and followed him through that.
Well, still sticking with this period, when you know Train mainly from records, did you feel the kinks being ironed out as you went from record to record?
Yes, but the kinks didn't bother me. I mean, I like that. The things he was doing in that period, a formative period for him, let's say, when he first joined Miles, it was great. None of it ever bothered me.
It was great getting greater.
Yeah. Or it was different. He was getting his vocabulary together more, certainly, but it didn't. It was just different. I could listen to the early things and be just as excited as the Giant Steps, and which is the period that when I joined the band. After that,
We're talking here with Steve Kuhn about the prehistory of his relationship to John Coltrane's music, which centers on a period in the first half of 1960, and now we're casting back to about 5 years before that, to a teenager named Steve Kuhn who lived in Boston and was, I assume, very active already as a jazz player or listener. And
I was working. I had a trio in Boston. Chuck Israels was the bassist, and Arnold Wise was the drummer. We called ourselves the MJT, the Modern Jewish Trio. And we used to work as a trio. I was at Harvard, and there was a club that opened there called the Club Mount Auburn 47. It was a club right across the street from my dormitory. And it became a jazz club, and they opened it essentially for us, and we played there as a trio. And then we would work as a rhythm section for different horn players who would come to Boston without their own bands, and so that was a great experience. I had a chance to do concerts with Coleman Hawkins, and remember Chet Baker, a number of other people, the three of us, and it was really it was quite a workshop for me.
Did you get a chance to see Train with the Miles groups when they came to Boston?
I don't remember. I remember. I don't remember.
From the way you're talking about hearing Train on records, I would kind of surmise that if you had seen him in person, it might have made an imprint. Might have had some impact.
The chances are I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think I did, but I could be wrong. It was the memory does. It's been so long that I'm not positive, but probably not. Probably not. I remember seeing Miles, maybe at the Philharmonic or at the Symphony Hall in Boston, but I don't remember if he had that band or it was pre that. I just don't know.
Yeah, well, as we've been representing by leafing through Train's career, there's several points when he's in and out. Between the time you first encountered him on records, he's in the Miles Davis group, then he's out at the top of 57 and with Monk, then he's back in 58, and then, sort of as necessary with occasional replacements up through the brink of the time that you're talking about in the beginning part of 1960, or that we're talking about in setting up how Steve Kuhn got hooked up with John Coltrane. Let's fast forward for a little bit. I'd like to maybe loop back eventually to try and draw on your experience of Ornette Coleman's breakthrough music in 59 and set that up within John Coltrane's world, but so that we have a framework for this, maybe we can talk through the stages that brought you to New York, or what was happening in New York at the time that you became aware that there was going to be an opening in Coltrane's band and made yourself available for it.
I finished college, 1959 at Harvard. I got a scholarship from Schaefer Beer, as they were looking for students to sponsor to go to this Lennox School of Jazz that you talked about. So I was one of the students they chose throughout the country, I guess, and went to Lennox in the summer that I graduated from college, and Ornette was also a student, as was Don Cherry, and Gary McFarland was a student, David Baker was a student, the faculty was the Modern Jazz Quartet, Bill Evans, Kenny Dorham, Gunther Schuller, George Russell. I mean, it was just a really intense 3-week period in the summer of 59, where we just really hung out with these people. We studied with them, quote unquote, but it was really, we would just hang out day and night, very little sleep. And I had a chance to meet all of these people and interact with them, on a close basis for those 3 weeks, and it was just very, very extraordinary. And then went back to Boston because I was somewhat leery about coming to New York. I was intimidated even though I knew this is what I had to do. I was a little bit intimidated, and my father, who sort of kept his eye on me all these years and encouraged the music, he was extremely close to me, and he too was not too anxious for me to leave the nest, but at the same time, to his credit, he said he knew that this is what I had to do, and he drove me to Manhattan, and I checked into the Bryant Hotel, 54th and Broadway, the infamous Bryant, which is still there, but got very inexpensive room, and the Bryant is just a block and a half north of Birdland, the original Birdland. And so when I got to New York, the first thing I did, I got on the phone and I called all the people I had met at Lenox a few weeks prior to that, just to let them know I was here, if they heard of anything, if there was any opening, if anything. And Kenny Dorham was one of the people I called, and he needed a piano player. Whoever the pianist was, was no longer with him, and he asked me to join the band. So I was over the moon. That was great. He had a job at a club in Bedford-Stuyvesant called Turbo Village. It was a quintet. Charles Davis was the baritone saxophone player, Kenny, Butch Warren was the bassist, and Buddy Enlow was the drummer, and myself. And that's how I started to work when I came to New York, and it was good fortune for me. Yeah. And I stayed with Kenny for most of a year, I guess, but during that period I had heard that John was leaving Miles and that he was looking to form a band. So somehow I got his number somewhere, and I called him, and this is not me, I'm basically kind of quiet and shy, but I called him and I said, introduce myself, I know you don't know who I am, but I'm currently working with Kenny Dorham, if you want to call him and ask him about me or anything, and I would love it if we could maybe just get together sometime and just play.